Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hollywood Lot Life, where we explore the ins and outs of the elusive entertainment industry. If you've ever dreamed of working in Hollywood or making it as a studio executive, then this is the podcast for you. This show is brought to you both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So, wherever you're listening from, welcome to the show and thank you for joining us. Today, I have an awesome show in store for you. We're going to talk a little strategy. So let me introduce you to my good friend Ben, who we started out working together at 20th Century Fox when he was an intern, and I was working in the promotions team. And he left for a little bit and then came back and is a marketing strategy manager at the Walt Disney Company. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jackson. Excited to be here.
What do you think of that intro? Was that pretty good?
Impeccable. Absolutely impeccable intro. Couldn't have done it better.
Thoughts on, how crucial is it for your job in the hype of a film?
I would totally agree. Yeah, it's super important. I think the strategy is really what kicks the campaign off, and really builds the marketing strategy or marketing campaign as a whole. Um, Obviously, it takes every individual team to build out the campaign. Our role, in regards to all the teams, is kind of just the beginning step to it all. And then our job uh, it starts the campaign, and then we kind of hand it off to all the teams to do their own individual jobs. And hopefully your marketing campaign is super successful. But yeah, the strategy really does like kick off the campaign, I'd say.
So if I were to put into words, you basically make the blueprint and then tell everybody how to build the house.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a good analogy. I would say we build out the blueprint for people to kind of build out their own blueprints. Honestly, we set the stage for kind of an overall marketing strategy that we see fit that every individual team can pull from, and create their own strategies from. So I think that blueprint analogy is actually a great analogy, and I've never used that before, but I'm actually going to start using that now because that was
Hey,
genius.
I'm happy to help out where I can.
Thank you, doing my job for me.
Exactly. So what would you say is, like, we're going to get into this more, but what's your official title with Disney? Did I get that correct?
Yes, it's a marketing strategy manager for the studio side, of Disney. Disney, as you know, has so many facets of the company, so I have to sometimes emphasize the fact that it's the studio side,
And
and
is
not.
that theatrical? Is it still theatrical or is it studio?
I would. It's studio. The studio does run theatrical and streaming campaigns, which is what I handle. I handle both of those. So, um, I think it used to be theatrical, and then it used to be like Netflix and all those companies used to be considered streaming. But now we've kind of combined it into the one studio marketing team, which handles both theatrical and streaming releases.
Got it. Interesting.
Mhm.
You're doing amazing things now, but let's rewind the clock. Are you originally from LA? Like, where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Hong Kong. I
Oh,
grew up Hong Kong for about 5 years of my life. So I don't remember too much of it, but I moved to LA when I was five, and I basically grew up here since. So from 5 to 18, I was living in LA. Went to college for 4 years in Maine,
oh, really? Where'd you
and
go?
yeah, I went to Bates College,
Okay.
middle of nowhere, very cold. Loved it to death, but I don't think I will ever be moving back there anytime soon. And then yeah, moved back to LA after college, and then immediately started at Disney.
That's so cool. I've just got so many questions that I'm thinking of. So, are your
Yeah,
parents
fire away.
from Hong Kong, or are did they like get transplanted there? Like, what's that process?
So they actually grew up in the U.S. They were born
Okay.
in the U.S.
hmm
They both ended up working abroad. However, after their business school years, so they moved out to Asia and basically hopped around Asia, and lived over there for like, I might be butchering this. Sorry, mom and dad, for like 12 or 13 years of their lives. And Hong Kong just ended up being the last place that they lived in before moving out to LA.
How cool. That's awesome.
hmm Yeah. So I get to brag about being born abroad. I don't unfortunately have a dual citizen passport, which I wish I did. Um, but yeah, no, it was from what I remember, a fantastic upbringing in Hong Kong.
That's the way to go about it. And
Yeah.
then you said you went to school Bates College. What did you study? Did you study film or something crazy different?
Yeah, so I was actually a bio major.
Whoa.
I was going supposed to go pre-med. I went into college thinking I was going to go to medical school. That drastically changed after my sophomore, after my, I would say my junior year probably.
Okay.
I minored in film and rhetoric and media studies. So I was doing my bio classes, doing my pre-med recs, while at the same time taking some film classes for my minor. And I think after it was probably organic chemistry or cellular and molecular biology my sophomore year, I was in a um, I was in a class with my professor, Stephanie Kelly Romano. And we were taking, I don't even remember what the class was, but basically every Tuesday night we would watch a film on top of our classes throughout the week. And I remember sitting in the class or in the film class that night and being like, what am I doing with my life? This is so much more fun than having to go home after this and study bio or like for an organic chemistry test.
Label all the
Um,
sides of a cell.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. I'm a bio major, and that's still the only thing I know. Um, but I remember sitting there and just being like, what am I doing with my life? Like, obviously, uh, science is extremely interesting. Biology is still extremely interesting to me, but I think I really found my love probably in one of those Tuesday night watching a movie classes. So yeah, it was around sophomore, junior year. I probably decided to switch up my career path, and instead of applying to med schools and taking the MCAT, I decided to take up an internship at 20th Century Fox, which is where I met you when you were
Yeah.
working there. Yeah.
So did you apply to it? How did you like even think about, interning at 20th Century Fox?
Yeah, so I applied to it. I
Okay.
applied through the internship program. I applied through a lot of the internship programs at the different studios. So my dad actually worked in the entertainment industry as well.
Very cool.
Funnily enough, he worked at 20th Century Fox too, and he absolutely did not want me to go into the entertainment industry.
Really?
Yeah, he did it his entire life for 26 years, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and so I kind of grew up around it. Never thought I would go into it at all. I was a big science guy, loved my science, so I always figured I would be a doctor. But um, yeah, he was not a strong advocate for it. Obviously, he supported me in whatever I would do, but I applied to a bunch of jobs or a bunch of internships that summer or before that summer in the studio world, and I didn't tell him. And I got into the Fox program, and I think he finally accepted the fate that I was going to be doing a summer internship there. So um, he supported me throughout the entire thing, and then I ended up loving the entire internship that I was there for like 3 months. And yeah, and then
What
I
team were
kind of
you
just took off from
on
there.
when you interned?
So I was on the strategy team under John Anderson, who you know,
I love that
and
guy.
one of the greatest guys ever.
He really is.
Will always be my favorite mentor of all time. But John Anderson, one of the greatest guys in the world, he took me under his wing, kind of showed me what his job was, and he introduced me to a bunch of the different departments. Like he introduced me to you guys on the promo team, a bunch of the digital team, the creative team, and it was basically just helping out wherever I could. As an intern. So whether it was like I helped build like, oh man, that was so long ago. I remember building out like a social audit or something like that for like Laura Avely, um, doing just very, very random jobs, working with Anna Roca, I think, on like LATAM stuff, just doing super, super random miscellaneous jobs. But I loved it. I was so happy to be doing whatever I could. So
And this is like a side thought. Did you work on Love Simon with us? Or was that
I don't think I did
before?
Love Simon.
Got it.
I think Love Simon was before. Was that 2017?
2016, 2017, one of those years.
2016? Yeah, I was 2018.
18?
Yeah, 2018 was my
Okay.
internship. Yeah. No, I remember sitting though in not a big, it was like a 20, 25 person theater, I think. And you and Jordan were standing up front, I think, or explaining something. I can't remember what it was, but doing some type of presentation. I wanted to ask you about this because I forgot what it was. I remember you specifically
Uh-huh.
sitting next to me or doing something, and Jordan would walk up on stage and explain what her role was to all the interns. And then you did a little talk or something. I remember maybe it was just to me, or maybe I'm making this up, but I remember talking to you and you explaining your job role and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I was like, this is awesome. So you were at the
And
start of my career, honestly.
I mean, I remember those glory days. You were, what's like a good analogy to put this with? Like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but like, you made waves. I just remember everyone being like, "Oh, have you met Ben? Ben is so awesome. He's this new
Oh,
intern. He is so awesome." So like,
oh,
you
I
may
hate
look
that.
out and think, "Oh, this is so cool," but I remember everyone being like, "The rock star Ben is gonna go
Oh,
places."
I appreciate it. I hate the attention, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I honestly I attribute all of that to John Anderson because he was just such a good teacher, honestly, for everything and anything. Any question I had, he would answer it immediately. He had
Nice.
answers for everything. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
an unbelievable intern experience. I mean, that shaped my rest of my career basically. So that's why we're here now.
So, did you do a summer internship while you were in Maine? Like, did you like come home for the summer and then go back to Maine, or how did that? Where did that
Yeah,
internship line up?
so I would fly home during the summers in between
Mm-hmm.
my college my college years. I'd
Mm-hmm.
fly home during the summers. So every summer I took up an internship. My sophomore year, I actually took up an internship with Dr. Grogan at LA Sports Medicine. So I was doing like
So you're
um,
like balancing out the two opportunities.
yeah, I did an orthopedic internship my sophomore year as well as a plastic surgery internship. And then I didn't do any entertainment internships that sophomore year. And then my junior year, I actually just did the 20th Century Fox internship. So got to focus my entire summer on that
That was right before your senior year, right?
right before my senior year.
Okay,
Yep.
that makes sense. I was like, it didn't feel that long that you were gone.
No, it was just 1 year, and then I came back. Yeah, took the summer to apply to all the jobs and everything, and was looking at a few other studios and was looking at some agencies, and it ended up just falling into my lap that John. I reached out to John Anderson, and he was like, "I'm actually looking for a coordinator. I would love to interview you for the job." And so I interviewed with him, and then interviewed with I think a few other people and some HR people, and yeah, it ended up working out great. It was like the perfect timing graduating college and then being able to go straight into Disney.
That, you know, well, wasn't it Fox and then Disney? Or where were
Sorry,
you in the
Fox.
acquisition?
Fox. It was so I actually let's see, as a coordinator, I actually was under Disney. I was never under Fox as my career.
Ah,
So this
that's
was like mid
right.
yeah. So this was like mid merger. And I applied through it was basically through John Anderson, and he put me in touch with the HR people, and the HR people were actually Disney HR people. So it ended up being a
Mm,
full Disney application
higher.
process.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I ended up being a Disney employee, and I remember being one of the only Disney employees on the Fox team, and so everyone else was, I think, struggling to get tech set up and stuff like that. And I was like, I was the guy that was like, come to me if you need some tech set up or need tech help or
Yep.
anything like that. Um, but yeah,
This is different, but like I remember we all had Fox computers and you were the only one who had a Disney computer and you were
yeah,
the only one that could access anything Disney and
yep.
we were like all on the outside looking in.
Yeah, it was it was such a process because I remember I mean the merger was massive, so obviously it takes time to once you acquire the company to start like onboarding the people that are getting acquired. So yeah, I feel like I was the little mole on the inside that could like help people get the information that they actually couldn't access with their emails and stuff like that because they weren't under the quote unquote Disney.com email.
Yep,
So
yep, yep.
yeah, that
So
was funny.
you're working as a coordinator at Fox, going through this acquisition, you're moving over to Disney. How long in total were you a coordinator with Disney, I guess?
So I was a coordinator for about I want to say 10 months or so.
Mm,
I was a coordinator for 10 months. I was loving it, and then COVID hit. So
yeah.
March 2020 comes around, and Disney furloughs, I don't even remember. I think it was like
Like
60% of their company or
everybody.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone. So everyone got super affected. I was one of those. And so, yeah, it was like a 10-month stint, and they didn't really tell us when we were going to come back. There was no promise that if we were going to come back, but just more of like we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. So, yeah, we were all jobless, I think, for that time there. Um, and then that's when I kind of transitioned into my job at Venn, which was in between my two Disney jobs.
And tell me about Venn. What do they do?
So Venn was a startup gaming TV network. It was focused on esports and gaming. So it was it was a new idea. We were going against the grain a little bit. It was kind of a opportune time to be joining that space because it was a TV network focused on gaming and esports in the middle of COVID. So people were all at their homes. They were looking for entertainment, stuff like that, because productions had all halted and all of that. So we were able to keep our productions going. So our model was basically a TV network. It was supposed to be CTV stuff as well as digital. I think we leaned a little bit too much into CTV, but we had 8 TV shows at the beginning, and we were building a brand from scratch. So
Wow.
we had an entire network that was running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we started off with eight shows, and we just basically built episodes along the way. So I was on the marketing team for that. I met Matt Reschke, who was my boss at Venn. I played soccer with him on Sunday League, and I remember he was asking me as I was working at Disney. He was like, "Yeah, I'm starting out at this company called Venn. It's new. We're launching in August 2020. If you ever need a job, reach out to me." And I was like, "Would love to." So then COVID hit, we got furloughed, and I was like, "This is a perfect time to go talk to Matt Reschke now." So I reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I would love a coordinator if you want to come join." So I ended up quitting Disney and then went to Venn and worked there for about a year and almost 2 years, year
Oh
and a half.
wow.
Yeah, I was there for a while.
And then were you just like getting the itch to go, seeing like the end of the tunnel kind of thing, or
I think it was more of I was right at the start of my career, and I didn't really want to be stagnant. I wanted to just keep going. I feel like I definitely had the itch to not sit around. And so yeah, decided to take the leap out of the safe zone and the safety net of Disney and having, not that I had a job because we were furloughed, but it was still like you are still a part of the company. They were
totally?
very respectful of that. So I decided to quit Disney and go this leap of faith to this startup that was extremely well backed. But yeah, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It was one of the best experiences I think I've ever had in the last like 3 or 4 years of my career. I'm
Wow,
pretty early on, I feel like still, but I think I learned more there than I've learned in the last 3 years that I have at Disney, honestly.
crazy.
Um,
So then
yeah.
did you just, so you're learning all this stuff, and then did Disney call you back and like, "Hey, we're hiring," or why did you leave that opportunity?
So the Venn company was doing really, really well for the beginning year, I'd say, and then profits slowly started to dwindle. I think we weren't really seeing much profit from the actual company itself. So we built up to about 200 people, including the production teams, and then we died back down to about 12 of us. So I
Oh
was one of
wow,
the last 12 or 15 people um, handling all of the marketing for the entire brand and whatever we had left.
crazy.
And I think that was when I realized I was like, okay, I think it's time to start looking elsewhere. This doesn't look like it's really coming back to life. So um, yeah, so I started looking elsewhere. I started applying to other jobs again. I was looking at studios, reaching out to people that I previously worked with. And then I reached out to Catherine Ross, who's my current boss now. And she worked under John Anderson before. I worked with her during when I was a coordinator. And she was like, actually, I see that you have kind of made your way up at Venn. You went from a coordinator to a manager. I'm looking to hire a manager role. I'd love for you to hop into this interview process and see how you stack up against these other applicants. So, yeah, so I ended up applying back to this manager position on the exact same team that I was on before as a coordinator and went through the interview process and ended up getting the job again. So it was
Wow.
great. I think it was it worked out really well because they were looking for someone to really delve right back into it. We were in the middle of, I think, like two or three massive campaigns. I think it was the Kingsman, Deepwater. There were a few upcoming big ones. So they wanted someone that had an understanding of the processes that were involved with the strategy team and stuff like that. And so it kind of all just fell into place.
Nice. That's awesome. That sounds like the perfect was did you feel like uh going from a coordinator to a manager with this same role did much change, or were you kind of just like just the title bump kind of thing?
I think the responsibilities definitely changed. There was a little bit more responsibility when it came to handling your own projects and stuff like that, as well as more responsibility when it came to kicking off strategies, for example. I think now specifically, and I am about a year and a half or two, I think, further into my manager career now. So I'm doing a little bit more than I did a year and a half ago, but I do remember it being more responsibility, more handling my own stuff basically. Whereas a coordinator, you're kind of coordinating between different teams and stuff like that. Whereas a manager, you're kind of responsible for more. What's the word? Responsible for more. I don't know. I guess you just have more opportunity, more responsibilities on your plate. So um, I would say the experience that I gained at Venn really
Paved the
helped me
way. Hmm.
pave the way and gave me the confidence to really take up the job as a manager at Disney.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, yeah, it was a pretty smooth transition, I'd say.
So between all of that, like what have been some of your like favorite experiences of like what you've done between Disney and all of it?
Hmm. Between Disney and Venn,
Hmm.
um, favorite experiences. Well, I for Venn for one was I still to this day, and I think honestly for the next few years of my life, will say like it was one of the craziest experiences I've ever had. I was just handling so much stuff. I didn't really know where to. It was kind of like you're just at a startup, you're just putting on a million different hats, right? So I would one day be helping out with programming on one of our TV shows, and then another day I'd be like making a TikTok for an E3 partnership, for example. So it was kind of doing a bunch of different things, but it was great. I one of the I think biggest highlights of my Venn career was working on a partnership with E3 and TikTok. So this was towards the end of the Venn life, I guess. But um, one of my bosses, she basically got in touch with E3 and TikTok somehow, and we needed to figure out a way. The goal was to figure out a way how to partner with them. And as a new kind of startup, you really have to pitch yourself well and really promise all these great things you're going to do for them. Um, so we ended up basically figuring out how to partner with both E3 and TikTok simultaneously, and solidified a deal where we were the exclusive distribution platform on TikTok, which hadn't really been done before for E3. So we streamed their entire live stream on TikTok through our Venn account, and at the same time, we were creating. I think in our deal, we ended up having 13 TikToks and social posts that we had to create. So we were doing that at the same time when we were also talking to the TikTok team to um, promote our posts and to have somewhat of a backing from TikTok. So they put us on the front page. And we basically told them in return we would be helping them with this E3 weekend. So it ended up going great. We got unbelievable numbers on our social platforms. E3 was extremely successful both on TikTok as well as their other platforms that they were distributing on. So it was a win-win, honestly, for everyone. But stuff like that was kind of pick it up, and just run with it at that company at Venn. So it was an experience to say the least when you're working directly with legal, making contracts, and then you're making TikToks the next day, and you're just like, what am I doing right now? It's a big imposter syndrome feeling, but once it's done, it feels great. So,
That sounds awesome. Like it sounds like you're taking like so much responsibility on your plate for what you're
mhm.
doing.
Yeah, it was an experience to say the least. But yeah, that definitely helped out with my transition into Disney, I think, and the manager role there, because while it is a little bit more corporate and there's a lot more process that you have to follow in regards to getting things approved and like
Yeah.
actually handling things, it does give you the confidence to really know that you can do it.
And what about Disney? Any fun favorite experiences?
Disney, campaigns wise, I guess I would talk about probably Barbarian was one of the best campaigns to work on in the past year or so.
What
That
did you do for it?
movie itself. So I, as the marketing strategy team, we basically wrote the marketing strategy for it in the beginning, drafted that up, and then distributed it to our teams. And this one, it was a lot smaller of a budget than a lot of the big Disney live action films, so we really had to be targeted with our marketing approach. And it ended up being a massive success, just I think due to all of the team's great work and really focusing on how to make this film marketing campaign unique compared to other horror films. I think we're seeing um, a really big explosion in the horror realm in the past like 2 or 3 years. Um, I mean, it obviously one of the classics, but I think
Halloween.
from then, yeah, exactly, and I
Yeah.
think from then on, it's been just like horror movie after horror movie after horror movie, and I think I've been
So
working on a
true.
ton of them. So it was a process to try and figure out how to market Barbarian in a different way. And you were talking about the viral kind of marketing campaigns earlier in the introduction. Um, we you want to figure out how to make something viral, but you can't promise that something's going to be viral. So the goal is always to um, try and market something to the best of your abilities in such a specific way that you hope something goes viral, or you try and lean that way. You can obviously never hope that something goes viral. There has to be some other strategy behind it rather than just hoping. But I think we did really well in our marketing campaign to really withhold a lot of information as to what the movie itself was, which was really what helped garner all of that excitement for the movie. So I would probably say Barbarian was the really fun marketing campaign to work on.
Okay. So it makes me think like broader. You kind of touched on it, but I want to like actually dive into it. What does marketing strategy mean at Disney? Like we talk about the blueprint and stuff like that, but like are you writing up like what are you telling these teams to do kind of stuff?
Yeah. Um, so it really kicks off honestly in pre-production and production of a film. We'll receive scripts for the film while it's shooting, and we'll have to read through the script and basically determine a marketing strategy from there. So the marketing strategy consists of basically um, everything from a target audience and target demographic that you get from the research team, and then a positioning kind of statement, paragraph, how you want to position the campaign, and then a few notes on how you want to actually market the campaign strategically. So our role basically is to come up with that kind of information and then distribute it to the teams and create that then leads to them creating their own compelling marketing strategies within their own teams. And then from there, once we write that marketing strategy, our role kind of converts into managing those like cross-functional coordination of those teams. So like the creative team and the digital team and the publicity team, promotions, partnerships, cinema partnerships, all of those, and making sure they're basically all aligned to our marketing strategy and everything is really going in step with each other. So anything from that to doing random miscellaneous projects like working on I just recently was working on a publishing deal. So working on movie tie-in editions for book covers, kind of picking up random jobs like that. And then another one of the main points of the job is working directly with filmmakers. So making sure everything that they want within the marketing campaign is they're seeing and is being heard. And then basically making sure the marketing campaign is executed. So working with external partners. For us specifically, I probably should have given this earlier, talking about the background of my job, but I work on Hulu films by 20th Century Studios, as well as 20th Century Studios theatrical releases. So a lot of my role when it comes to working on those Hulu streaming movies is working directly with our Hulu partners, our Hulu studio partners. So working with them in lockstep to make sure that everything that we're doing on the studio side for 20th Century Studios is aligned with the Hulu side. So that partnership is really key and essential to creating a successful campaign as well for these Hulu movies.
Now, this is just a side question that I just thought of because you
Hmm.
brought up Hulu. Did you work on the marketing campaign for Welcome to Wrexham?
No, I didn't. I wish I did. That
Because
was
that was
such a good
so
show.
good.
So good. So good. I only work on films, no TV shows or
Oh,
anything.
that defines as TV
Yeah, I guess
or
yeah, that would be TV, I
TV or
guess.
whatever.
TV.
Limited series.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. So I only do film. Anything that's 20th
Got it.
century. I'm basically 20th Century Studios team. Anything that's 20th Century Studios related is me.
I was just
Yeah,
curious because I loved that.
it was so
It was
good.
so
It was
good.
so good.
Um, so like what does your day-to-day look like? Is it basically just putting all those things together for all the different titles you have, or
Yeah, that's basically all it is. It's every day for me personally is extremely different. I obviously have meetings set that are reoccurring meetings. So obviously you have like campaign regroups for each film. But at a single time, I can be working on like one movie or I can be working on like three or four movies. So because I think we have around 9 to 12 releases a year at this point for just my team. So at one point, you'll be working towards the end of a campaign. Like right now, we're finishing up our White Man Can't Jump campaign, which releases next Friday, and we're also starting the marketing campaign for some movies that are going into production right now as well that will release in 2024 and 2025. So
so one day you might be meeting with James Cameron, the next day you're meeting with publicity, the next day you're meeting with, you know, all these different aspects, and it's not just like your boring same routine every day.
exactly. I personally might not be meeting with James Cameron, but my team will be meeting with James Cameron. My
Okay.
boss might be. But yeah, we do a bunch of filmmaker meetings and stuff like that as well. So, like I said, we're really making sure the filmmakers are feeling heard. So, for every campaign, we'll um, pull together our team pulls together an entire marketing filmmaker deck that is basically probably a 100 slide deck to present to filmmakers at the end of the campaign to make sure they understand really what's going on and every single thing that we have to support their film. So that I would say is also a big role.
Got it. So what defines success for your role, like your team?
Um, Honestly, making sure a campaign is successful and goes really smoothly. There's obviously going to be hiccups along the way in any marketing campaign, whether it be, I don't know, um, a screening doesn't go well or something like that. But as long as the filmmakers are happy and our studio team is happy, I think our jobs are pretty successful
Nice.
in that realm, but a little bit less specific, I'd say,
Mhm.
than a role on the digital team, for example. So, the digital team is only handling things in regards to social media or digital platform activations and platform partnerships. Whereas we have our hand in all the other teams. So, publicity, digital, like I said, cinema partnerships, media, all of that stuff. So, we're kind of the overarching eye, not in a scary way, that kind of makes sure everything is aligned.
That makes sense. They're that one team's not putting out content that they shouldn't be.
Exactly.
Okay. So we're going from broad now on to like a personal level. How do you go about being strategic? Like how do you put that thinking cap on?
Great question. It's a lot of honestly, it's funny. It's a lot of overthinking. I want to say overthinking might not be the right word, but it's constantly being aware of what's going on everywhere. So making sure, um, I think the number one thing in my job, and the number one most important thing to do in my job is to be organized, because you're handling so much and working with so many different teams. You have to make sure you're really organized when it comes to each individual campaign because you could also be working on three or four films at the same time, and they'll overlap. So, like for example, we have White Man Can't Jump releasing next Friday, and then we have The Boogeyman releasing June 2nd. So, just 2 weeks after White Man Can't Jump, and those campaigns can get mixed up really, really easily.
And they're totally different
Um,
style films.
Exactly. Totally different style of films, but a lot of the process in which a film is marketed is relatively similar. So you have the same, they won't be the same, for example, media hits or media programming beats that you'll have on White Man Can't Jump as you will Boogeyman, but you will have a large amount of media hits that you have to make sure are are vocalized and shown to the filmmakers to make sure that they understand what's going on and are happy with that. So you have to make sure you're really focused and organized in your work, or else you can really start mixing things up and get lost in what's going on.
Totally. That makes total sense with so many things going on all at once.
Hmm.
So, what aspects of a film are like you're reading a script, like, and you're like, oh, this could be interesting. Like, what are you looking to take from a film to implement into like a marketing strategy?
Um, so the first thing for me that comes to mind is uh, how the film actually looks on camera. Like if the film's done, it might not be completely done, but you see a cut of the film. Um, if the film is good, I think is like one of the most important things when you're looking at scripts. It's I'm sure it's pretty obvious, but it's easier to make a marketing campaign out of a film that is good than a film that is bad.
And gets you
When
excited
a
about it.
Exactly, and when a film is bad, it um, makes it extremely difficult to think. Or I guess I would say when a film is good, it's a lot easier to come up with some really fun marketing campaigns because you know no matter what the film is going to be successful if the film is good. You obviously have to market a film. You need a certain budget to market a film depending upon the size and the priority of the title. But if a film is good, you know that it's going to be well received from audiences and critics, so you're a little bit more comfortable going into the marketing campaign. Whereas if the film is bad, it's a little bit you have to be a little bit pickier with the strategy and how you want to market the film because you need to make sure that prior to the release of the film, you are positioning the film in a good way. I guess I would say.
So, like, what's one marketing campaign that you're super proud of in the last like 5 years besides Barbarian?
Hmm. Um, I would probably say Prey. Um,
Yeah.
Prey was an extremely interesting campaign to work on. Um, and I would honestly say it was like one of the first big titles that I worked on, even though it was a streaming release. It was extremely interesting because obviously you have Prey, which is a part of the Predator franchise, which is a absolutely massive franchise coming out of 20th century. So you have that kind of built-in fan base around it, yet this film is going to streaming. So it's a little bit confusing to audiences, I think, when you see a big theatrical franchise like this going to streaming. You always, as an audience member, assume that the film is probably going to be bad, right? I think we're kind of shifting out of that era now, though, where streaming titles are assumed to be bad because I think there's so many streaming movies now that are incredible. So, Prey being one of them. But I think the Prey campaign was one of the most difficult yet most rewarding campaigns we worked on. It was one of the first movies I think we released from a Hulu standpoint that I worked on personally, where we really dove into like the actual support we can get from Hulu and how we can really push the marketing campaign limits. That campaign was extremely targeted. Um, we were very we were very lucky to have the Predator franchise and the backing, and for the film to be really good. The film itself is obviously incredible. Dan Trachtenberg is like an incredible director, and Amber Midthunder is an incredible actress. So it was really great to have like them obviously on board for the film. But with that film being really, really good, you realize you're like, wow, we have to make this marketing campaign very, very good so that people see it and notice it. So we kind of created a pretty substantial, robust, like word of mouth screening program for that film. And we really kicked it off during, I think it was Collider, um, or maybe it was Comic Con. I'm blanking on it now, but we kicked it off the screening program at a bunch of different locations. So we had kind of this word of mouth buzz built around it. And we made sure that the audiences were the first ones to really talk about the film. So we lifted the social embargo early. We let people see the film, a couple private screenings for people to see and get excited for it at different locations that we thought Predator franchise fans would be at. So we'd get that positive word of mouth out of it. And I think we just got so lucky when the social reviews started coming out and people were like, this is an impeccable film, like top quality from 20th. Really brings back that Predator franchise because I think we were coming off of The Predator from 2017 or something like that, which wasn't that great of a film and wasn't really well received. I should say wasn't really well received. So that was kind of a difficulty, kind of an uphill climb from that. But once we started getting that positive word of mouth from people, it kind of built from there. And the marketing campaign, or the film kind of spoke for itself, and the marketing campaign was just easy after that. It was more of our job just to make sure everything was moving smoothly, and we knew that the film was gonna be successful in the end. So I think at that time, once we released that, I think Vacation Friends was the biggest Hulu release, but that ended up being the biggest Hulu release to date, and I think it's been passed now. Um, but yeah, that was one of the bigger films I think we worked on. That was really, really cool. We worked with the Comanche Nation as well, which was a really cool opportunity there. We had a bunch of screenings with them, and we released the film in the Comanche language actually,
Whoa.
which was really, really cool too. So that's on Hulu. You can watch it in a full Comanche translation, which was Comanche dub, which was really, really cool. I thought personally, but
Yeah, no, that is cool.
yeah, it was great. It was a really, really great film to work on, and I think that is a prime example of um, not creating something out of nothing, but I think it was um, you didn't really know what to expect going into it, and then it was an incredible experience. So
That's so cool. Okay, so you're selling me already. Like I'm ready to jump back in the Disney Mouse house. But like for you, what are
yeah,
some of the best parts about working in the industry?
working in the industry. Honestly, it's getting to work on movies. I think like it's kind of insane when I take a step back sometimes and just think about like my entire job is based on the fact that I'm working on something that I watch on in theater or on my TV, like it's entertainment. I have a bunch of friends that work in consulting for brands and for like large banking companies, and it's just I don't think I could see myself doing something like that, not in the entertainment world. Really, just working on something that people get to watch and enjoy is like one of my favorite things in the world. So um, I think being in entertainment and being able to work on something that you love doing. Like I am obsessed with movies. I love watching movies, and I think there's so many people around the world that love watching movies but don't know that these are actual jobs. Um, is so it's super important to be doing something like this. I think to really explore that people can be working on movies from a business-ish perspective, not just a production side. So
So my follow-up question to that, you make it sound so wonderful. Every day is awesome. But like what are some of like the biggest struggles where you're like, man, I wish I was a doctor right now, not working here.
yeah, um, a lot of the like busy work stuff, like a lot of like a bunch of hours in my day for a lot of the campaigns will consist of um, building out highlights, like tens of pages of just like everything that's happening in our campaign written out. And I think when you're doing busy work like that, you're kind of just like, oh, this is a little bit
Tedious.
tedious, and you're doing it, and you're like, okay, this will take 3 or 4 hours of my day, but I just have to get it done. And in those moments, I'm like, I wish I was saving a life right now or something like that, and not doing something that um, was just sitting at my computer just typing away for hours. But that being said, I think that's such a small facet of my job, so it
It makes it still
um,
worth it.
it makes it worth it. Yeah, exactly.
So, do you feel like before, let's rewind back to when you are in Maine in this class watching a movie. you have these misconceptions about Hollywood. Like, have you through your time, like, what misconceptions have you found in Hollywood and the entertainment industry in general?
Um, I think I was lucky enough to not have any misconceptions. I think obviously that's an overstatement. I definitely had some misconceptions about the entertainment industry because I didn't know everything, but I think I grew up around it a little more than other people did. So I kind of saw um, I saw like my dad, for example, going through all the misery of reading a million scripts and dealing with filmmakers and doing all of that stuff. And so I think I kind of understood the bad parts about the industry and like the difficulties you have to face. And I think that's the same with any job. You know, you're going to face difficulties um, and things you don't like about your job. But um, I would say going into the entertainment industry, I think a lot of people have misconceptions about it being a super glamorous lifestyle. You know, you're I don't know, going to all these premieres and it's all super glamorous. But it's really unfortunate because a lot of I don't know, the pay isn't great. It's a very low paying industry, I would say, until you get to the higher levels. So you do, as much as it seems like from an outside perspective, like you're living a dream life on social media, for example, like we were talking about. I just went to the White Man Can't Jump premiere, posted an Instagram story, and I was like, this is great. I'm sure people would see that and be like, wow, this is a crazy lifestyle. But in reality, it's really not. You're sitting behind a desk most of the day and you're handling stuff, handling tedious things. So that would be a misconception I'd say probably a bunch of people see is just thinking that it's all rich, glamorous stuff going on, but it really isn't.
Okay, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I felt the exact same way while I was working there. So,
Hmm.
yep. Um, Now, I just started noticing this when I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is they started putting in Disney marketing names in the credits. Has your name
Mm,
fallen into any film credits?
absolutely not.
Ah, dang it.
I I think that'll be many, many years before my name gets in the credits. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Um, but I think I have noticed that. I don't know if that's been around for a while or if that's just recently.
Yeah, within like the last
Um,
5 years for sure.
yeah, because I think I went to a movie last year and I saw my boss's name or my boss's boss's name on it, and I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool! You get your name in the credits of a movie. That's awesome."
Was it Assad or
It was Assad and it was Martha.
oh yeah, yeah, Martha. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, that's honestly really cool. It's cool to see like the marketing side of a film. It's super important. The production. I mean, I have this somewhat existential, not existential crisis often, but it's like the idea of I always say a film that I'm working on or my film, for example, where it's not really my film. It's really the people that have made the film themselves on the production side. It's their movie. It's our job to really market their movie. Um, and so all the credit really for films should be given to the production teams and the writers and the actors and the directors, producers, all of that. We're kind of just there, I feel like, to show to people how great of a movie their movie actually is and making sure they get the stage that they deserve.
Man, that's a
But
great point. Oh,
yeah, I noticed that. I think it was a couple years ago. I noticed I was saying like, "Oh yeah, my movie," and I was like, "It's not my movie. It's absolutely I have nothing to do with this movie except for the marketing campaign."
yep.
Um, but yeah, it's really all about the writers, the directors, the producers, the actors that really make the film what it is. So yeah.
That's awesome. Great advice. So this leads into my one of my last questions is do you have any advice for those who are either in college or wanting to strive to get into the entertainment industry or be in film strategy? What advice would you give to them to get into their own career?
Just talk to everyone you can. Get as many perspectives as you can in the industry. There's so many jobs might not be available at the moment, but there are so many different types of roles and jobs that you can take on. And I think the best way to learn about them is, if you can't do them and you don't have the job yet, is just to talk to people about their jobs. So I love just like talking to people, because when I was in college, the only way I knew how to learn about what I was getting into was by just talking to people that are already in it. And that's where I learned the most, honestly, was randomly getting a call, or randomly calling someone. Sorry, not randomly calling someone. I would never do that. But sending out an email to like Jackson, for example, and being like, "Hey, Jackson, I'd love to learn more about your role. Is there any chance you could give me like 15 minutes to just like learn about it and ask you some questions?" And that's the best way you're going to learn, and learn what you love too, because I think that's super important. I'm 26 years old, and I don't know if I'm going to be in marketing strategy my entire life, but I know for now I really like what I'm doing, so I might as well stay in it. But who knows, I could be on the promotions team in like 5 years, or I could be on the digital side. So um, kind of just figuring out what you like by talking to as many people as you can.
That makes sense. That's great advice. So, last question I have is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what's like your dream career? Have you figured out like kind of not the road to get to the end point, but like a point where you're like, man, this is where I want to be, if you're not already
Hmm.
there?
Being in the Netherlands and next to you.
Oh,
Now,
okay. Okay.
I definitely at some point am trying to work abroad. I think I've been saying this, and my friends will make fun of me nonstop because I've been saying this for the past like 2 years. But I want to move abroad at some point. That's not really career related, I don't think. But if I can do my career abroad like you are doing, I think that would be awesome. Um, from a career perspective, honestly, not sure. I just want to do what makes me happy. So as long as I'm enjoying it and doing my job successfully and not letting anybody down, I think that's probably where I'll be. Um, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe I go back and I go to medical school.
Hey, there you
No,
go.
I would absolutely never. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of the world is your oyster kind of situation. So who knows?
I've
We'll
always
see.
said like, as long as I'm passionate about what I'm doing, doesn't matter what I'm doing, I will enjoy it if I'm passionate about it.
Totally. Agreed. And as long as you are making enough money to live, that is also very important. Um, yes, food is very important. So obviously you can do what you want and what you love, but you have to survive. So um, yeah, just doing what you love and surviving.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show. You've been a great guest. It's been so awesome to just, see you again. I feel like it's been years since I last talked to you.
It's been a long time. Yeah, yeah. This was really fun. I
Seriously.
love it, Jackson.
Well, everybody at home listening, watching, thank you for watching the episode. I really appreciate it. If you could just subscribe to this channel, it's free. I'm not, trying to get money out of this, but, definitely follow if you're listening on the podcast. Thank you so much for supporting us. And, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jackson.